Is there any doubt in question 1? Look, in question number 1, before explaining the question, you can understand the type of a substance from the physical properties. Number 1, for substance F, you can find it's having a low melting point and boiling point. It is soluble in water and does not conduct electricity. Number 2, so in the question they are asking which substance in the table having ionic bond. Ionic bond or ionic compounds, they should have high melting point, high boiling point. These are the properties. High melting point should be there or boiling point. Does not conduct electricity in solid, but conduct electricity in molten state. Solid at room temperature, and mostly they are water soluble. So these are some properties of ionic compounds. So ionic compounds have ionic bond. So first you check the high melting point. You can even check from this end that in a molten state it should conduct, and in a solid state it should not conduct. So which substance is not conducting in a solid state and conducting in a molten state? So the substance which is conducting in a molten state and does not conduct in a solid state, that is substance H. So even without looking at the other properties, I can work out that the substance H should be an ionic compound. Because so it will be water soluble, high melting boiling point and high melting point. But even these two properties can be used to distinguish ionic compounds have high melting and boiling point, mostly soluble in water, and does not conduct electricity in solid but conduct electricity in molten or aqueous state. Which substance in the table has a giant covalent structure? So if it is having a giant covalent structure, it should have a high melting and a boiling point. It should not dissolve, or it should be insoluble. And the giant structures such as diamond or silicon 4 oxide, they cannot conduct. Exception is there, graphite is exception, but diamond and silicon 4 oxide does not conduct electricity. So to have a giant structure, it should have a high melting point or boiling point, insoluble in water. It will be solid at room temperature and does not conduct electricity. So when you check which one matches with this description, so it does not conduct electricity. Only the three substances which are not conducting electricity. F is there, G is there, and I is there. Then it should be insoluble. That's another property. So F is soluble, so it means it is insoluble. So either G can be answered or I can be answered. But then when you check the melting and the boiling point, you can clearly see that this substance I is having a low melting and a boiling point. To be a giant structure, they have a very high melting and boiling point. That is why G is the correct answer. Name a method you could use to separate a mixture of substance J and water. So first you have to check whether J is water soluble or it is insoluble. Then you can decide a technique. So as you can see, they mention J is insoluble in water. So if something is insoluble in water or does not dissolve in water, so what we can simply use, we can use a filtration. We can pass a mixture through a filter paper. The solid will left behind as a residue, and the liquid, the filtrate, will pass through. So substance J is insoluble in water, does not dissolve. So which technique we can use? We can use filtration if we want to separate insoluble substance from water. Name a method you could use to obtain substance F from a mixture of substance F and water. F is soluble in water. So if something is water soluble or dissolved in water, and you have to check the state as well. What is the state of F at room temperature? When you work out the state, how to work out the state? The state of a substance before the melting point, it is solid. The state of the substance before its melting point, it is solid. Between its melting and the boiling point, it is liquid, and after its boiling point, it is gas. So state, what will be the state of substance F at room temperature? Room temperature, you can take 25. So at 25, which will be there between minus 97 and 65. So it means it will be a liquid. So substance F is a liquid. So when liquid, miscible liquids are there, because water is also a liquid, and when two or more miscible liquids are there, the technique which you use fractional distillation. If it was a solid, like substance existing as a solid at room temperature, then we can use crystallization or evaporation. But because it is a liquid, that's why it is fractional distillation. So we use here the fractional distillation. Then in part E, describe how would you obtain a solid sample of substance H from a mixture of H and G. So H and G are there. H is soluble and G is insoluble. H is basically an ionic compound and G is a giant covalent. So first thing, if we have G and H, both are solid at room temperature. So what we will do, first we will add water. Why we add water? Because we will add water to make an aqueous solution or dissolve. So we will add water, and what is the effect of water? H will dissolve because H is ionic compound, and G will not dissolve. Then how we can separate once was a solution from the solid? We will use filtration or filter to remove G from solution of H, because H dissolves, so it will make a solution. Then how to obtain H from its solution? So we can use crystallization. Heat, concentrate, cool down, and filter. That's the process or steps involved in crystallization. Or you can also use evaporation, because evaporation can also be used to separate the soluble solid from the solution, from aqueous solution. In the question, they say you have H, you have substance H, and you have substance G, how you can separate them from each other? That is the question. Describe how would you obtain solid sample of substance H from a mixture of H and G. So H and G are mixed together. So first thing, you have to separate H from G. So how to separate H from G? First you make a solution, because when you add water, H will dissolve and G will remain insoluble. Then you filter it to remove G, and then you use crystallization or evaporation to obtain solid H. Substance J is a metal. Describe how substance J is able to conduct electricity when it is solid. So how metals can conduct electricity? Because what is the structure of the metals? Metal have free electron, and this electron can move within the structure. It can move throughout the structure. That is why it can conduct electricity. Is it clear? Question number 1. This was question 1. Question 2. Any doubt in any part or of this question 2? Two A, matter can exist in solid, liquid, and gas. Name the changes of the state represented in the diagram. A. In A, a solid is changing into liquid. What we call this process when a solid changes into liquid? So that is known as melting. For B, a solid is changing into gas. If solid change to gas or gas change to solid, what we call that as sublimation. C means a gas is changing into liquid. When a gas changes to liquid, what we call this process? We call that as condensation. Question 3 was not there because organic chemistry still we are not completed yet. Some of the parts you can solve, but not all of them. That's why I did not include. Question 4. Is there any doubt in question 4? So in question 4, write a chemical equation for formation of ammonia. Ammonia is formed when nitrogen react with hydrogen. This will result in a formation of 2 molecules of ammonia. The raw material from which a nitrogen and hydrogen are obtained, it is from air, liquid air, and hydrogen is from hydrocarbon. Or even you can mention methane, that is also correct. State the temperature and the pressure used in a Haber's process. So temperature is around 450 degrees centigrade, and pressure is for the Haber for contact process is 2 to 3 atm, but for Haber's process we use a high pressure. You can mention 200 atm. The unit is also important, to 200 atmospheric pressure. Ammonia is also made by ammonium carbonate decomposition. So ammonium carbonate decompose and form ammonia. The reaction is reversible. So reactant can form a product can decompose and form back the reactant. The graph shows how the yield of ammonia or amount of a product changes with temperature. You can see at 100 you're getting small amount of ammonia, but at 300 you're getting more ammonia. So the first question is, what is meant by term equilibrium? The term equilibrium means when rate of forward reaction is equals to rate of backward reaction and there is no change in concentration of reactant or product. And this forward reaction is endothermic. Why it is endothermic? Because at 300 I'm getting more product. So When increasing a temperature, we get more product. It means that reactants have less energy and the product is having more energy, or the reaction is endothermic. Use information, explain whether reaction, forward reaction is endo or exo. So it will be endothermic because increasing a temperature increase the amount of product. State and explain the effect of increasing the pressure on the yield of ammonia. As we are increasing a pressure, the yield of ammonia is decreasing. What is the reason for that? Because when you check the number of the moles, so one number of moles of gas, 2 plus 1 plus 1. So total 4 moles of gas on the reactant side and 0 moles of the gas at the product side. So when we increase the pressure, equilibrium shift towards left hand side. That is why the yield is decreasing. Question 5. Any doubt in question 5? Why we cannot obtain hydrogen from liquid air? Because in air you don't have hydrogen. That's why. 5A and 5C2. Okay. 5A, look what happened. Your this is electrolysis. Copper 2 sulfate solution was electrolyzed using the apparatus. So it contained copper ion, it contained sulfate ion, and it contained hydrogen ion, and it contained hydroxide ion. For electrolysis, the less reactive positive ion will move towards cathode. Which is less reactive positive ion, copper 2 or hydrogen? So when you work out which is less reactive positive ion, so copper 2 is less reactive positive ion, so copper 2 will move towards cathode. So when copper 2 will move towards cathode, it will take 2 electron and change into copper atom. At anode, sulfate, nitrate and carbonate will never move. So the negative ion which you are left with now is hydroxide. So when hydroxide ion will move there, and we are using carbon electrode, which is inert electrode, carbon or graphite. So when 4 hydroxide ions move there, they will lose 4 electron and give oxygen gas and water molecules. O2 plus 2H2O. So at anode, what are the bubbles formed? The bubbles are due to oxygen gas. So a gas was formed at anode. Identify this gas and give a test. So the gas which is given at anode is oxygen. And what is the test for oxygen? It will be glowing splint. It will relight. So glowing splint, relight or rekindle. Why not carbon dioxide? Because what happened, carbon dioxide can form during the electrolysis of aluminum because of very high temperature. The electrolysis of the aluminum, when we are extracting the aluminum from the ore, aluminum bauxite is the ore. So in that case, the temperature is too high. That is why the carbon was reacting with oxygen and forming carbon dioxide. But here, this electrolysis is done at a room temperature around 25 to 30 degrees centigrade. That's why at this temperature, the carbon is not reacting with even the oxygen gas which is formed. Then question 5C. During electrolysis, electricity passed through copper 2 sulfate solution. Solid 2 copper 2 sulfate does not conduct electricity. Explain the both statement. Because solid 2 copper sulfate is ionic compound. And in ionic compounds, ions are not free to move. Positive and negative ions are there. I'm using a same shade to draw both of these ions. So in solid state, the ions are not free to move. That's why it does not conduct electricity in solid state. But what about aqueous or a molten? When we dissolve, like when we add this to water, the solid dissolve. As a solid dissolve, now ions are free to move. So as these ions are free to move, as ions are free to move, the solution or a substance can conduct electricity. So in aqueous solution, ions are free to move. That is why it can conduct electricity. In part C, the electrolysis was repeated using a copper electrode. Look, when we are using a copper electrode, what happened? Now, instead of carbon, we are using copper anode, we are using copper cathode, and still the solution is copper sulfate. So what happened in this is called active electrodes. In this electrolysis, what happened? As the copper ion we have in the solution, the copper ions are there, sulfate ions, hydrogen ion, and hydroxide ion. Copper ions are less reactive, so they will move towards the cathode. So as these copper ions from the solution move towards the cathode, amount of the copper ion in the solution decreases. To overcome this, the copper atoms from the anode will go inside the solution as a copper ion. So nothing like these three ions are not able to discharge. Only change which happen is for copper. Basically, copper ion which is there in the solution will move towards cathode, and the copper atom which is there at anode will go inside the solution as a copper ion. That's why we called it as this as active electrode, in which we have the electrode and the electrolyte contain the same element. So in this part C, the electrolysis was repeated using the copper electrodes using in place of carbon electrodes. The ionic half equation are at two electrodes are given. Which species is reduced during the electrolysis? Explain your answer. What is the meaning of reduction or reduce? Reduction is a gain of electron. When something gain electron, we call that as reduction. So you have to check the equation. So here what is happening? The copper atom is converting into copper ion by losing electron. So this is not oxidation here. This is not reduction. This one is oxidation because it's a loss of electron. But copper ion take electron and change to copper atom. So when something gain electron, reduction we call. So which species reduce here? The copper ions are reduced because they gain. What is the reason? Because they gain electron. So copper ions, and reason is because they are gaining electron. The masses of the copper electrode change during the electrolysis. State how and explain why the masses of the two copper electrode change using the ionic half equation. Basically what happened, you can see if these two electrodes are made up of copper. One is connected with a positive terminal anode, another one is negative terminal cathode. The solution contain copper ion, hydrogen ion, sulfate ion, and hydroxide ion. As the copper ions are less reactive, so copper ions attracted towards cathode. So as these copper ions are attracted towards cathode, these copper ions are gaining electron and change to copper atom. So when it change to copper atom, that will stick to the cathode. As it will stick to the cathode, the size of the cathode will increase. And what happened for anode? The copper atoms which are there, these copper atoms are going inside the solution and converting into copper ion. So when these copper atoms are changing into copper ions, amount of copper atoms will decrease. So as the amount of copper atom will decrease, the size of the anode, like if originally it was this size, then because the copper atoms are changing into ion, so the amount or number of the copper atom is decreasing. That's why the size of anode will decrease. So here the answer, you will mention copper ion change to copper atom, and that copper atom stick to the cathode. That's why the cathode size increase. And for anode, the copper atom go inside the solution as a copper ion. That is why the anode size will decrease, or the mass will decrease. Explain why during the electrolysis the color of the copper 2 sulfate solution does not change. So what is the reason? Because like if one copper ion is going out, at the same time one copper atom is coming inside the solution. So amount of copper ion which are leaving the solution is same as amount of copper ions enter the solution. That is why the color or the concentration of the copper ion does not change, or the solution color remain unchanged. But in the previous one, because if we are using a carbon electrode, the amount of the copper ions decrease, copper ions are attracted, so amount of copper ion decrease. And here this is made up of carbon, so it cannot enter the electrolyte, so the color will get dimmer. But for active electrodes, when we are using anode and electrolyte both contain the copper, that case the electrolyte color will not change. Is it clear? This was question 5, part C. This is organic chemistry, still that was not the homework. Any other question or a doubt? This was October, November 2016. There is one more question. The last question is related to rate of reaction. I think I forgot to mention in the homework, but that is related to rate of reaction. So I will discuss now so that we can complete this paper. Other than organic chemistry, magnesium carbonate react with dilute hydrochloric acid. An excess of magnesium carbonate, excess means more than enough, magnesium carbonate pieces were added to hydrochloric acid. The apparatus in the diagram was used to measure the volume of gas produced. The total volume of a gas collected and recorded every 20 seconds. So this is the shape of the graph. Describe how the rate of this reaction changed during the reaction and explain why the rate changes this way. And you can see it's a 4 marks, but the answer is very simple, because in the beginning you have more particles, greater number of the particles are there in the beginning. So they will have more collision as the number of the particle decreases. So how the rate vary? Using a graph, the slope is representing the slope of volume versus time is representing the rate. So slope is representing a rate. In the beginning it is steeper, but as you can see the slope is decreasing. It means the rate will also decrease. So first mark, the rate of the reaction is decreasing. And why the rate of the reaction is decreasing? Because in the beginning we have more particles, but the number of the particle are decreasing, so they will have less collision. Then eventually why it will stop? It will stop when all of the acid, because they already mentioned in the question that magnesium carbonate was in excess, so you cannot mention magnesium carbonate used up. It will stop when all the acid used up. If you mention when both reactant used up, that is also wrong. If you mention when magnesium carbonate used up, that is also wrong, because in the beginning of the question they already mentioned that the reagent which is in excess is magnesium carbonate. So magnesium carbonate in excess means even the reaction finished, it will left the experiment was repeated using a same mass of powdered magnesium carbonate and same volume and concentration of hydrochloride. If we use a powdered, first we use large pieces, now we are using a powder. So what will happen to the rate or the speed of the reaction? It will increase. So you will have initial, like it will be steeper, but the final product or the final amount should be same. The reaction will finish in a short time, but the amount of the product form is same because you are using a same amount of acid. You are only changing the size of the magnesium carbonate. Now in the question they're saying explain how the initial rate of a reaction and total volume of a gas compared to the first experiment. So initial rate will be faster because large surface, small particle size. So large area, greater rate, and total volume, it will be same because same number of the particle. Number of the reactant particles or the particles of reactant does not change. That's why the total volume will be same of the product. The next part, a piece of magnesium ribbon was cleaned. So we have a magnesium ribbon. The experiment was repeated using a clean magnesium ribbon instead of magnesium carbonate. So we are using a magnesium ribbon instead of magnesium carbonate. When any metal react with acid, this will result in a formation of salt and hydrogen. The reaction is exothermic. The rate of reaction gradually increases over the first 2 minutes. Explain why the rate of the reaction increase, and it's of 5 marks. So why the rate of the reaction increases? Because what happened? The reaction is exothermic. Exothermic reaction release energy. So say you have a container which is filled with acid and you add magnesium metal here, or magnesium ribbon. So when you add this magnesium ribbon, when they are reacting with each other, the reaction is exothermic. So if the reaction is exothermic, it will release the heat energy. But that heat energy which is released by reaction between magnesium and hydrochloric acid is absorbed by the water because it is in aqueous. So the water, if original temperature of the water is 20, but when the reaction occurs, the temperature will increase to 25. So higher temperature means more collisions between the particle. So reaction is exothermic. When we write the answer, so the reaction is exothermic. Which release heat energy and increase the temperature of the mixture. So particles will have more energy. they will move faster, they will collide often, and there are more successful collision, which will result increase in the rate. Is it clear how the rate of the reaction vary as the reaction is exothermic? So basically, the reaction started at low temperature. Because the reaction is exothermic, it increases the temperature, and as it increases the temperature, the rate of the reaction increase. This is what happened. Like example, if any place, if there is a fire, so what happened? Because combustion is exothermic, so that release the energy, and that energy is actually used to increase up the rate of the reaction. So this was